How did man's best friend come to be? The dogs we know today started out as gray wolves that formed a relationship with humans tens of thousands of years ago. They are believed to be the first domesticated animals that were able to work alongside humans and build a working relationship. There are many arguments and theories on where the first partnership began and how the bonds between the two were created. What we do know for sure is that by building this partnership between the wolves and the humans, the way the humans interacted with the earth around us and lived greatly changed. There is no other partnership between animals and humans like this one. The wolf and the human together made us unstoppable. As wolves started to interact with humans, they did things such as tolerate being around them so they could clean up the scraps of what the humans killed. Both profited from their new relationship. People used wolves during the hunt for keeping flocks together and to warn against approaching enemies. Man, in turn, made sure his wolves were fed. Wolves are social animals. Like humans, they live in groups, called packs, with social ranks in which some wolves claim leadership. This made this animal suitable and attractive as a companion because wolves accepted man as their leader. Requirements with regard to behavior and appearance of wolves started to change. Their bodies got smaller. They became able to understand and read human expressions. As they traveled, dogs mingled with other populations of dogs and wolves, both ancestral and modern, creating a genetic potpourri. A 2015 study in genome research, for example, estimated that 25% of modern Eurasian wolf DNA actually comes from interbreeding between domesticated animals and the wild wolves. During the Middle Ages, people started seeing dogs as a status symbol. Dogs gave people distinction. The number of dog breeds started to increase enormously. Dogs were bred for size, length, color, face, behavior, and strokeability. This is still happening today. Today's dogs come in all shapes and sizes. There are now over 400 breeds of dogs. They still all belong to the same species, which means they can breed and be crossbred and still have fertile offspring. Today, dogs are such a familiar part of our lives and to many are part of the family. They have found two major trees of dogs, one from Eastern Eurasia and one from Western Eurasia. They believe the dogs started being domesticated somewhere in China and some broke off and went west. They say the two trees split from each other anywhere from 6,400 to 14,000 years ago. But the oldest fossils in both the western and the eastern areas are older than that. That proves that dogs in the eastern places like China were not the first dogs there. They also believe dogs may have been domesticated twice in the western parts of the world because as the eastern dogs moved, they mated with the western dogs. This makes sense in today's world because the dog now of eastern descent trace back to ancient eastern dogs, but there is slightly less than 10% that trace back to the ancient western dogs. archaeologist and geneticist Gregor Larson said, "Remove domestication from the human species, and there's probably a couple of million of us on the planet, max. Instead, what we do have, 7 billion people, climate change, travel, innovation, and everything else. Domestication has influenced the entire earth, and the dog was the first. For most of human history, we're not dissimilar from other wild primates. We're manipulating our environment, but not on a bigger scale than, say, a herd of African elephants. And then we go into partnership with this group of wolves. They altered our relationship with the natural world. The earliest confirmed domesticated dog anywhere so far is from the burial site in Germany called Bonn Oberkassel, which has joint human and dog interments dated to 14,000 years ago. The earliest confirmed domesticated dog in China was found in the early Neolithic Jiahao site in the Henan province, roughly 7,000 to 5,800 BCE. Evidence for coexistence of dogs and humans, but not necessarily domestication, comes from the Upper Paleolithic sites in Germany. These hold evidence for dogs' interactions with humans and include Gavet Cave in Belgium, Chevet Cave in France, and Predomusty in the Czech Republic. European Mesolithic sites, like Skatholm in Sweden, have dog burials, proving the value of the furry beast to hunter-gatherer settlements. Danger Cave in Utah is currently the earliest case of dog burial here in America, at about 11,000 years ago, likely a descendant of Asian dogs. The Western Hemisphere was populated by people who migrated from Northeast Asia, and with them they brought their domesticated dogs. The early settlers for the Americas did not have things that Europe and Asia and other areas of the world did. They did not domesticate pigs, horses, sheep, cattle, none of that. Just dogs. The people settled all over the Americas, and the dogs they brought with them adapted to wherever their owners chose to live. These dogs were different from the dogs in early Europeans. These dogs were different from the dogs that early Europeans had in size and the way they interacted with humans. They acted as protectors, hunters, helpers, and partners to humans in everyday life. The struggle researchers find with pinning down exactly where dogs originally started being domesticated is that they came from gray wolves. And gray wolves were all over the northern hemisphere. The only place they can rule out completely is North America. Researchers say the only way to know for sure how dogs came about is to time travel back into their past. They've stated that using methods that have proven efficient and effective in finding out the history of humans and different populations of different places by humans is helping them find more about the dog. They're extracting DNA from ancient fossils they've managed to dig up and find all over the northern hemisphere, and using that DNA to build more evidence and knowledge of how and where the domestication of dogs first occurred. Although the dog was domesticated from an ancient wolf, modern wolves are not related to the dog or the ancient wolf. It is believed that the ancient wolf has been extinct for a long time. Though we know our dogs evolved from wolves, there is still a question of their appearance. A Russian geneticist, Dmitry Belyaev, has discovered a possible answer. In his research, he attempted to breed tame foxes. Belyaev discovered that after several generations of selective breeding, the foxes became tamer and began to take on dog-like characteristics. Though foxes are not the ancestors of our dogs, this experiment has potentially unlocked the answer. In Belyaev's experiment, as the foxes became tamer, they developed floppy ears, shorter snouts, spotted coats, highly set tails, and even a tendency to bark. The amazing thing is, many of these characteristics in the tame foxes are absent in their wild counterpart. Through Belyaev's research, scientists believe that it is the tameness that brought about these variations, even though they were unseen in their wild counterparts. With this knowledge, scientists believe it is the same with our dogs and how they changed from their wild ancestors. Wolves have changed because of domestication as well as continued interbreeding, and it has resulted in the hybrid black wolf found in America. Black fur is not a characteristic of a wolf. It is a characteristic of a dog. Even though wolves have helped shape our civilization, there is no definite answer on if humans domesticated wolves or if wolves domesticated themselves.